relate. Hands up if you can relate to my my issues here. If you have technological issues on a daily basis, yeah. Super. Okie dokie. So the only thing that's going to affect is me having to exit out of the show and come back to a screen looking like this so that I can click a few buttons every now and again. So apart from that, and what I just did there, guys, was click record. So we will be recording tonight's webinar, and we'll pop it up in the VIP page tomorrow. A, for you guys to go back and check on anything that you've forgotten, and B, for everyone else who couldn't make it tonight. So first things first, I want to congratulate you for jumping on the webinar, because there's plenty of things you could be doing on a Tuesday night. Second thing is make sure you got a pad and pen handy, and if you don't, quickly go and grab one. Okay, super important. So when anything pops up, that we take a few notes so we can make sure that we are getting the most out of our webinar. And thirdly, if I have a mind blank or my words stop working for a second, it's probably just a bit of jet lag. So I got back from India this morning, and occasionally my brain just stops working for 5 or 10 seconds. So if that happens and I can't think of a word or whatever, then forgive me for tonight. So anyway, we're going to rock and roll, and tonight's webinar, as you know, all about nutrition for fat loss, okay, and making sure that we not only learn some stuff but also come up with some ways to apply it, okay, and I'll get specific on exactly what we're going to cover in just a moment. Before we start, getting rid of any distractions. So turn your phone off or flip it upside down, or put it on silent so you can't see it and it doesn't distract you. Try and lock the kids in the cupboard or something for the next hour so they don't distract you. If you've got a husband or a wife that's good at interrupting, which mostly they are from what I'm told, pop them away somewhere as well, or turn the TV on, keep them occupied for a little while. Okay, so we can really rip in and get the most out of our next hour. Your I know button. Everyone's got an I know button. So some of the things we talk about tonight are going to be incredibly simple, and you've probably already heard them before. But before you are tempted to say those two words in a row, I know, let's just make sure that we're being really mindful of that, because once we say those two words, our brain is going to switch off from the possibility of learning something new and a finer distinction on something. So you don't want to miss out on any of that, because you get yourself stuck in the I know mindset, okay? And a lot of these things, you may well on a logical level know, but you might not be doing, okay? So it might be a great reminder for you. And then there's going to be other things that are like, wow, I didn't know that. That's really cool, okay? But you've got to be in the right mindset to pick up on those things. Clear your mind of all preconceptions. So let's just, come at tonight with an open mind. There might be one or two things that you're like, oh, that's different to what so-and-so said, and that's life, and that's nutrition, and that's, everyone's got their own thoughts, their own beliefs, etc., etc. So taking those on board as well. And we've already done the where are you from, but if you haven't popped that in yet, let us know. So pop it in the little questions part. Let us know where you're from. Okay, next slide before we kick off. Hands up if you've seen this before. It's called the line. Hands up if you've seen the line before. Hands, 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 hands. Cool. Okay, most people have seen it before. If you're a member of ours, you would have got a copy of this when you started and had a quick mini explanation. But long story short, we can either live above the line or below the line. Above the line, we take ownership, accountability, and responsibility for our actions and our results. Below the line, we blame other people, we make excuses, and we deny responsibility, okay? So, of course, tonight, for the next 55 minutes or so, we're going to live above the line. So, and I'm not asking you, can you live above the line? I'm just saying we are going to do it because we are, all right? So, hands up if you are cool with that and you can handle 100% above the line for the next 55 minutes. You already got your hand up. That's fantastic from before. You can hit it again, that'll pop it down, okay? So you don't get a sore arm from holding it up all night. Okay, perfect. Awesome. Now, some of you don't know who I am, so why would you want to listen to me? That's a question I've been asking myself for years, but let me have a go of explaining it. Okay, so basically, I'm the founder and CEO of PEP, so most of you guys have come from one of our locations, and one of our, you have a daily relationship with one of our dream team, which is fantastic. So basically, that was me as just a personal trainer about 8 years ago. We started now, just a little over 8 years ago. I was just before my 21st birthday, it was actually. And now that's evolved. We have a team of 80-something trainers, salespeople, admin people, managers, etc., across Australia, and also now in India, okay, where we have one location so far in India, with many more to come. So that's me up in the top left-hand corner. And this is our location down in India on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. You can see in the front of that screen one of our team members, Rakesh, and up the back, Sid, and a bunch of our clients there from India and Pune, or Pune, depending on, it's like Mackay, depending on where you're from in India, which is a city near Mumbai, and that's where we've launched PEP earlier this year, and we're going really well over there, and plenty more exciting things to come. Bottom left, you can see our Rockhampton location after a Super Saturday. That's what we do. Obviously, you guys know what we do. We help people live healthier, happier lives. That be through weight loss, improving confidence, improving self-esteem, helping people find their spark again so they can go and lead the way for others. Okay, so that's our whole mission, is just to help improve people's lives so they can then pass that on and have a massive ripple effect so we can make the world a healthier, happier place. Okay, and I think that's incredibly important if you turn on the news and see what the world is like these days, or possibly before these days. Anyway, that's Dee, who is one of our clients in Rockhampton. This is my buddy Jason, who passed away when we were 21, and that was a really pivotal time for me for a couple of reasons. I realized life is short. We've got to really, do it now. If we've got a dream or something that we want to chase, we have to go after it 100%, because we don't know how long we have. And that has led to PEP growing to what it is today, 35 locations. We're just getting started, but that was a real kind of life lesson for me when Jason passed away. But the other part to that was we started a thing called the Jason Rich Foundation, which is the other thing I do apart from PEP, which is a charity that we started, which funds Year 12 kids through defensive driving courses. And the bottom of the screen is one of our annual events up in Yeppoon near Rockhampton. It's where Jason and I grew up across the road from each other. And and that's an event, a fun run that we do every year to raise funds for that. And this is our PEP HQ, where I'm talking to you from now here in beautiful Redcliffe. So that's who I am, all right? And what I want to know now is, what do you want to get out of our session tonight? Okay, so in the little questions part, pop through, what's the number one thing that you want to get out of our time tonight? Okay, and I'll just exit out of the screen so I can see your questions as they come through. Awesome, welcome to Leah, Sandy, Samantha, Sandy from Toowoomba, Samantha from Townsville. Fantastic. So in the little questions part, team, just pop through, what's the number one thing you want to get out of our session tonight? Is there one thing you want to learn, or one thing that you want help with? I'll make a note of those things and just make sure we do cover them off. Okay, so even if it's not on the slides, we can definitely talk about it. Cool. Colleen's got how to lose weight and stay consistent, and that last part's really important, to stay consistent. Okay, and that's super, critical. We'll go more into depth into that at a later webinar, because it's more about changing your identity rather than just changing the things that you do for a little while. Okay, but certainly tonight we'll make good progress into that. Leah, looking for some motivation. Cool. So motivation, what is that? It is basically having a motive. That's where the word comes from. So why? Why is this so important to you, Leah? And that's the question I would ask you, and get you to get really, really clear on that. Okay? Why is it so important to you to live a healthy, happy life, for example? Or, you can shape that question depending on your situation, your circumstances, and what you want to achieve. But why? The clearer you can answer that question, why, the more motivation you're going to have. The bigger your why, the more motivation you're going to have. So instead of I want to feel good, it could be because I want to inspire my kids to live a healthy, happier life. Option number 2 is a much bigger why. It's outside of yourself. It's bigger than you. Therefore, you're going to have to grow and become more than you are today. Okay? So get really, really clear on your why and go for a bigger why. Okay? Cool. Okay. Learning what to eat and how to stay on track with Marie. From Marie. Sorry, that's great. Marie. Sandy says ditto. Cool. Michelle says eat cleaner, enjoy exercise, gain knowledge. Awesome. Can always learn something new. If we learn one new thing in this next 50 minutes, then we're on track for a good life. Becky, sorry if I've got your name wrong. Be more informed and change bad habits. Fantastic. One of the things we're going to do toward the end of tonight's webinar is learn how to change a habit, how to break a habit, and what's the 3-step system for making that happen every single time. Okay, so we'll go through that. Samantha, how to lose weight and keep the weight off. Fantastic. Emma, tone up, lose weight, be happy with my body. Cool. So on that last part, I would challenge you to choose to be happy with it now. Okay. In other words, be happy with yourself, be proud of yourself for who you are right now, and you'll start acting, accordingly. You'll start acting like someone who is proud of their body and happy with their body, their life, etc. now, and your results will improve. Okay, it's a conversation for another day where we'll talk about the identity iceberg. Okay, but it's kind of like what comes first, the chicken or the egg. Okay, but I've seen a lot of people lose weight and look great and still not be happy with their body. Okay, so choose to be happy now, and then we will improve. The results will improve from there. Gloria says, I want to improve my knowledge on better nutrition. Cool. Emma says, I can't hear you. So that might be a problem with your audio. Everyone else can hear me, I'm assuming. Otherwise, we wouldn't have questions coming through. Can everyone hear me now? Like right this second. Hands up if you can hear me. Hands. Yep. Okay, cool. So it seems to be working. How to stop snacking from Nailene. Good one. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about that, but snacking is not necessarily a bad thing. It can be, but not always. Depends what you're snacking on, obviously, and what other meals you're having in the day. Cool. What to eat when your hormones are out of control. We're going to talk a lot about hormones today, but it sounds to me like specifically that, Gabriella, you would need some specific information. So I'd be getting your blood test done so they can see exactly what's happening with your hormones, and then you go and talk to a doctor who specializes in that area or a dietitian who does. Okay, because that's going to be really different from person to person. Cool. Shani says breaking habits is my biggest thing too. Late night snacking is my downfall. Ooh. Okay. Cool. Breaking habits. Emma can hear me now. That's great. How to stop craving sugar. Nice. Cool. Fantastic, guys. Thanks so much for sharing. I'm going to rock and roll, and all those things we're going to cover as we go through tonight. And if there's something that we miss, or you might think of another question as we go through, and please sing out when that happens. Okay, as I said, I won't be able to answer the questions as we go because they're all, I can't literally see my mouse, okay, so I can't click on the questions, but I'll do on that every now and again and come back and answer the questions in bulk. Okay, so getting really, really clear, nutrition is a complex thing, right? There's often no right or wrong answer. It's individual basis and circumstances, but we'll do our best tonight to cover off on the majority of those. Just to let you know, I'm not the person who claims to know everything, okay? And I'll just tell you straight up if I don't know an answer rather than trying to make one up and sound smart. Okay, is that cool with everyone? And so what everything I'm going to talk about tonight, we've been putting into practice for years, okay, and helping lots and lots of people with. I've literally sat down with thousands of people and talked about nutrition with them, meeting them one-on-one or in groups, etc. Before I started PEPT, I was actually about 2/3 of the way through a nutrition degree at university, and then I started PEPT and realized that I didn't really need that piece of paper to help people, and in fact, I wasn't going to be doing much of that anyway because my my vision had kind of evolved into growing a team and running a business as opposed to just being a nutritionist. Okay. So if I don't know the answer to a question, I'll just tell you. We're going to help with a lot of the common issues. Obviously, there's a lot of patterns that occur when you meet with thousands of people on a particular topic. The same thing keeps coming up over and over again with 80% of people. So they're the things we're going to focus on tonight. Yep, we're not going to be able to uncover every single thing you need to do in your life to live the life that you're potential of living, or you have the potential of living tonight, but we're just going to do as much as we can in that hour. And my goal for the night is to have every single person leave with at least one great thing they can go away and implement being the key word here. Not to say, oh, that was cool, I learned something new, but what are we actually going to do with that to improve our life? Okay, so my goal for tonight is to have as massive an impact as possible on you guys, and that means that I've utilized my time well, which is super important to me. I want to help as many people as possible in this life, and to as big a degree as possible. So that's what I'm going to be focused on for this next 45 minutes or whatever we have. Okay, and we might run a little bit over time, and so be it if you got to go because the house is burning down at 8 o'clock. That's cool. No dramas there. And the other thing is, I might talk really, really fast sometimes because A, I get excited about this stuff, and B, we have a lot to get through tonight. Okay, and for those of you who tuned in a little late, I've got a bit of jet lag happening today, so if I stumble over a few words, please forgive me, and I'll do my best, and we're going to have a bit of fun tonight as well. Okay, so I hope that is okay with everyone. If you're not okay with having fun or listening to the occasional amazing joke that I might put in there, especially hard telling jokes when no one's capable, I can't hear you laughing, but just let me know if you have a laugh, okay? That'll make me feel good. All right, tonight's agenda, we're going to talk about this thing called biotyping, which is all about your hormones, okay, which will be new for most of you guys, but you'll probably fit into one of 4 categories, okay? So that's going to be interesting. And how to, once you know which type you are, how do we actually eat accordingly to help improve our situation? We're going to talk about the top 5 mistakes we see people do, how to avoid them, foods to avoid, the foods to focus on. We're going to talk about pre and post workout nutrition. And we're going to also, which I have a dot point we haven't got there, is how to break a habit. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to come up with an action plan to putting it all into place so that you can have a different outcome. Okay, hands up if you're just ready to rock and roll while I get a sip of water. Yeah. All right, fantastic. Good to hear. All right, which one are you? So there's 4 different biotypes, and if this becomes particularly interesting to you, check out a guy called Charles Poliquin, who's the guy who's the kind of the world expert on this stuff. Alrighty. So each biotype is based around a hormone imbalance, okay, of a different hormone, and that's going to generally lead to you depositing fat somewhere in your body to a higher proportion than other areas of your body, okay? So, for example, you might find I have all this fat on my arms, but none on my legs. Okay, what's up with that, right? So generally speaking, that's a hormone imbalance, okay? So we've got too much of a hormone, one particular one. So we've got the insulin, which is the hormone that's job in your body is to regulate your blood sugar levels, okay? So insulin is a response to a high blood sugar level. So when you eat a high carb meal or drink a soft drink, for example, your body is going to produce all this insulin, which is the hormone, to store some of that energy so that you don't just have this, you don't just go crazy, basically, okay, and run around like a mad person. So it helps stabilize our blood sugar levels, which stabilizes our energy production, our energy levels, and also it helps us with the crash afterwards so we don't just crash and burn. Okay, so if you have fat deposits around the shoulder blades, excess fat deposits, this should be, around the shoulder blades and top of the hips, or in other words, your muffins or your muffin tops, whatever you want to call them, then this could be you, okay? So to reduce We want to eat things like omega-3s, so fish, tuna, salmon, all those kind of things. Eating more regular meals and lowering your carb intake. So the oily fish or the omega-3 helps with insulin resistance, which means the insulin doesn't have the effect. It's kind of like, you need 10 coffees now to get the same buzz that one used to give you. Okay, insulin's kind of the same. Your body gets a little bit used to it, and then it has to produce more and more and more and more. And that's insulin resistance. And the issue with that is that's when you're going to get this inflammation occurring and the fat deposits happening when you've got a chronic excess of insulin floating through your body on a regular basis. So the best way to do that is to lower the carb intake, okay? So stop eating so many carbs, so therefore your blood sugar levels won't be as high, therefore your body won't produce as much insulin, and then you eat more oily fish, which makes the cells in your body less resistant to the insulin, so it does its job, okay? So hope that makes sense. Number 2 is cortisol. This is a nasty stress hormone, okay? This is most common, the first one's most common in women, this one's most common in men, but that's not to say that 100% of these are all men, right? So it's a stress hormone. It's going to lead to excess tummy fat. So think of beer belly, okay? Someone with a beer belly generally has high cortisol levels, okay? Now that could be stress coming from literally like being stressed, as in, your job is stressful or you're going through some hard times in life and you're stressed out all the time. Okay, or it could be stress from another thing, such as inflammation. So it could be from, literally drinking too many beers. Okay, so you got a high sugar content in those 9 times out of 10. You got the alcohol content as well as gluten in the beers as well, which can cause inflammation in a lot of people. So your body is being stressed out more so than your mind in the other example. Right? So often high caffeine or chronic abuse of caffeine will contribute to this as well. So think of the stressed out businessman who doesn't exercise enough, okay, drinks a lot. So each night they're having some drinks to wind down and they're living off caffeine throughout the day just to kind of keep charging forward. And then they've got this big beer belly, and they waddle around all day. So that's like the typical classic example of this one. So again, more fish oil, investigate the food intolerance thing because that can be a really common one, and reduce the caffeine levels is how you fix it. Okay, obviously reducing alcohol content, etc. If that is something for you. The androgen hormones, okay, this is more like a group of hormones rather than one specific one. Okay, so if you are low in these hormones, you're going to develop fat deposits on the back of your arms and chest. So think of a guy with quote unquote man boobs, right? Fat deposits on the chest, okay? This is a typical one. So that just means the hormones like testosterone are low, okay? And generally that means that estrogen levels, which is more the female dominated hormone, will be high. So to fix this, we need to boost our testosterone levels. So more weight training is a good way to do that. With increased protein intake, there's a bunch of vitamins that you can see there. Flaxseed oil is really, really good, and berries really, really good as well. Okay, so really simple. A lot of these things are simple. It's just about knowing and being able to identify, that's me. Yep, I need to do these 1, 2, 3 things. Okay, and then we've got an overabundance of estrogen, which is the female hormone. So again, this one's going to be more to the ladies. And fat accumulation at the top of the thighs and butt area. This is what this is going to be from, okay? So we need to metabolize the estrogen better, okay, which means we need to be able to burn it up, okay? So lots of green leafy vegetables. Flaxseed oil, again, your B supplements are really, really good as well. So it's quite simple stuff, okay? But that's just going to help your body metabolize the hormone better, burn it up so it doesn't just sit in your system for too long, okay, which is where the issues come, because all these hormones have a job to play in our body, but they're not supposed to just sit there all day, every day. We're not supposed to be stressed out all day, every day, okay, with the cortisol, for example, okay? So that's super important. All right, hope that makes sense. Now, my question for you is, which one of those is you, okay? if any, right? So is there one of those that really sticks out to you? Says, oh, that's me. Okay, so now you know what you can do about it, and it's going to be quite simple. Go and do these 1, 2, 3 things. Eat more of these foods, do less of this. A, cool. We've got A for one person. We've got the last one for another person. Cool. Most of you guys are going to fit into either number 1 or number 4. Just going through all the names, is mostly females on the line tonight. So, but that's not to say that you'll definitely be. Can you be 2 of them? Totally. And you know, you're always going to be an element of more than one thing. It's like, you know, when you have 4 personality types, you can't just be one. You're going to be a combination, but you're going to be dominant in one. Cool. We've got another one for number 1. We've got someone for A, or number 1 and number 4. We've got A, B, and D. Cool. We're on fire. Overachiever. We got another one for D. Cool. Okay, perfect. All right, so that's great. So what I want you to take note of is what you got to do about that. Okay, so if you were number 1 with the insulin, you got to get more omega-3s. That can be supplementation or eating more tuna and salmon, eating more regular meals, and lowering the carb intake. Okay, so we'll talk about that a little bit later. If you're number 4 with the estrogens, then green leafy vegetables, flaxseed oil, just have a teaspoon or a tablespoon, of flaxseed oil every day. Tastes horrible, but it's got to be done. Or I'm sure these days you can get in tablet form. And your B supplements for you. Okay, perfect. All right, so we've got 1 and 4 again. We've got someone sounds all of them. Cool. 1 and 4. Cool. Will fish oil help lose weight? That's a good question. Difficult one to answer. Supplements are only good if you have a deficiency, right, in that area. Generally, that's why they're called supplements. So, for example, no good taking B vitamin supplement if you're not deficient in B vitamins. Okay, it's not actually going to do anything. So if you're not eating fish or getting enough omega-3 into your diet, then definitely fish oil will help you. Okay, not only to lose weight, but also just to feel better as well. Okay, and often, you know, that will help you lose weight because you feel better, you're more, you know, excited about life, more ready to exercise, get more out of your workouts, you're going to recover better, etc., etc. Okay, cool. All right, so we're going to get now into our top 5 mistakes. And mistake number 1 is missing meals. So some of you guys who said, you know, you're number 1 with the insulin one, this is a big one for you. Now, on a side topic, hands up if you used to love playing Hungry Hippos as a kid or even as an adult. If you grew up in the 90s and 80s maybe even, but I grew up in the 90s and we had this game, Hungry Hippos. Hands up if you've never heard of Hungry Hippos before. Possibly the best game ever. You should definitely go and get it. All right. So, in any case, that's the photo you can see there on the screen. That's Hungry Hippos. So the balls come out and then you hit the button as hard as you can and your hippo eats all the little balls up. And that's what happens when you miss meals, right? Which is the relevance. So that's what we want to avoid. So when's the last time you missed a meal? Hopefully it was a while ago. Why is it bad? Who can tell me? Why is missing meals not great for us? Okay, actually, let me just answer that because I can't see your answers at this second. So why is it bad? Well, like the Hungry Hippos, when you haven't eaten for a while, what tends to happen is your blood sugar levels are really, really low. So 2 things happen when your blood sugar levels are low and you're really, really hungry, right? First thing is our brain says we need to get these blood sugar levels back up. Therefore, it goes looking for sugary foods. Okay, so when you're super hungry, how good does a can of Coke look? Or how good does a bag of lollies look, right? Compared to something a bit healthier, right? Just sit down and eat a proper meal. So that's because our brain's really tuned in and it says we need to get these blood sugar levels up because your brain's there to help you survive, right? Our sugar levels getting low, this is critical. You know, it's like your the fuel light flicking on in your car. Hey, you got to get fuel right now to keep going. Alrighty, so that's what's going on there. And number 2, obviously, when we're hungry, we have a tendency to overeat as well. So we're going to eat the wrong foods more likely, and we're more likely to eat too much. Okay, so pretty simple. I know you guys are all smart people. You understand that already. But what can we do to avoid it? Okay. The number one thing we can do is to eat regularly, all right, and plan our meals. Okay, now normally I'd ask you and be getting you to tell us your ideas here, but again, I can't see your questions coming through tonight until I exit out of the slideshow. So really simple, planning ahead. Okay, so that means preparation. Now, two ways to do that. You can either prepare your meals, in the morning or the night before or whatever, or you can employ there's plenty of service providers that do that for you now. So, for example, I use a company called U Foods, and they have the pre-packaged meals that you just chuck in the microwave for 2 minutes, and they're great. It's meat and vegetables type meals, and then in between that, I'll snack on nuts or protein bar or fruit, etc., etc. All right. So being really organized in your meals and having food available consistently. All righty. So if you have a job where you can't get away from the desk, making sure you have convenient snacks at your desk, whether it's a protein shake or some nuts, etc., etc., so that you avoid getting to dinner time or lunchtime so hungry that you'll just eat whatever's not nailed down the minute you walk through the door. Okay, so that is critical. Really, really simple. Come up with a plan. So at the end of tonight's session, we're going to sit down and go through our plan of action. So what are you going to do? So if there's one or two things that are popping into your head now, write them down. Okay, simple as that. Okay, mistake number 2, too many carbs. And this comes back to those of you who had the insulin biotype. Okay, biotype number 1. So we know what carbs are: pastas, breads, all that kind of stuff. Why is that bad? Number one, what happens when you eat a high carb meal? Your body breaks that down instantly into sugar, okay, or glucose, okay. Now, the job of insulin, so your body produces all this insulin, and its job is then to turn that glucose into its storage form, which is called glycogen, okay. So that means we need lots of insulin going through our body. Then what happens is we store all the glycogen, and then all of a sudden our blood sugar levels are low again. We crave carbs again. So it's like the vicious carb cycle. You might have found this, you eat a big feed of pasta or something like that, then half an hour later you're just craving dessert. You want some sugar, okay? So, or an hour later that night, you're craving some dessert or some ice cream or something like that, right? So that's a carb cycle happening. So really, really simple. And like we discovered before, we don't want to have elevated levels of insulin in our body for a long period of time, okay? And also the insulin resistance. So like we said with the caffeine example or the alcohol, you get used to drinking, you build up a tolerance, then you need to drink more, etc., etc. Same thing with insulin. Why are there so many carbs around? Long story short, it's much cheaper to make a plate of pasta for you when you go to the restaurant than it is to make you a steak or meat or something like that, right? Because it's much easier to farm and much cheaper to make grains than it is to feed a cow for years on end, etc., etc. How to avoid the carb trap is a really simple rule. Have a goal of including some protein into every meal, okay? Include protein into every meal, more vegetables in the meals, etc., etc., and again, planning out your snacks, okay? So nuts and tuna and salmon and things like that as snacks. Your Greek yogurts, things like that, as opposed to your muesli bar, and the typical ones in our modern day society. Okay, mistake number 3, not snacking. So again, this is just comes back into the missed meals in a way, but snacking is really, really important so that we don't overeat at our main meals, okay? It helps just keep our blood sugar levels more consistent, which means our hormones are going to be more stable, which, as we know now, that's a good thing, okay? And we're not going to be so hungry that we make bad food choices because we're not ourselves when we're hungry. It's like those Snickers ads, right? You're not yourself when you're hungry. So eating regular meals is super, super important. What kind of foods are best? We just rattled off a few before. Nuts, Greek yogurts are great, seeds. Nuts and seeds are great in Greek yogurt too, as just a way to jazz it up. Certainly have fruit as well, okay, and we'll talk about that because we should be eating fruit, but you can eat too much. So your fruits, vegetables, great snacks. Your little tins of tuna and salmon are great, convenient little snacks. Your protein balls and all that kind of stuff. but do be a little bit mindful of those, because there's good protein balls and there's ones that are basically, you may as well eat a chocolate bar, all right, that are loaded up. And what you want to be looking there is for the sugar content. Okay, and all right, so that's our little exercise which we literally just did. And I'm just going to fly through these because these are fairly basic, and I want to get to questions toward the end, and I really want to focus on the changing habits part today as well, because there was a bunch of you guys asking about that. Now, missing meals and missing your snacks is going to lead you to mistake number 4, which is binging. So, for example, we have a quote-unquote cheat day, and we think it's okay to eat whatever we want as much as we want because it's my cheat day, and it happens once a week, and you eat so many calories in that cheat day that it takes, it's like 2 or 3 days worth of normal calories, right? And then you spend the whole rest of that week trying to make up for that. So it's just, again, a vicious cycle. It's not to say that you can never eat bad food, because, that's just crazy. But you got to do it within moderation if you want a result, okay? It's like, having a goal to grow a huge business, but you never go to work, okay? Or you go to work once a week and then you take a holiday the rest of the week, right? That's not going to work. So if you've got a goal to, lose X amount of kilograms, or have, a particular body shape, or look a particular way, or feel a particular way, then you've got to work out, what have I got to do to make that happen? And certainly eating your body weight worth of ice cream every Saturday night is not going to help you on that mission. So so people just make all these sorts of things to justify it to themselves, okay? So if you find yourself falling into this trap, just be really mindful of that. It's only once a week, so it's okay. When I drink, I don't eat, so it evens itself out, right? And then you wake up the next day starving, and you eat so much food that it makes up for the day before, plus you had 1,000 drinks. So, in one Mars bar, nearly 300 calories, which is a lot. And I'll show you another example in just a second. But how do you avoid binging? Mostly by keeping your blood sugar levels stable, and that means eating regularly, okay? So you're more likely to binge when your blood sugar levels are low, you're hungry, you're craving certain foods, and you're really focused on the food at that point in time, rather than being focused on something bigger because you've fed yourself, okay? So in other words, you can focus on your dreams and aspirations and chasing them, as opposed to, I'm so hungry right now, I could eat, X, Y, Z. All right. Drinking calories brings us to mistake number 5. The normally carbs in a drink like that, you're talking 300-400 calories. While it may be delicious, that's not great, and it's going to be all from sugar. Okay. Often we drink them at night as well, which is obviously an issue, because if we're drinking, we're talking like wines, beers, whatever, high in carbs again, and we might be having 1, 2, 3, 4 or more of an evening, okay, which is not amazing. So they don't fill you up, so you're still going to get hungry, whether it's right then or a little bit later. You're going to get hungry, and you're going to eat more calories on top of the ones that you already drank, so it really adds up quickly, okay. And an example, white hot chocolate from Starbucks, you're looking at about 420 calories. That'll be for probably a grande or a venti, big one. But anyway, that's a lot, right? So that's like a whole meal worth of calories in a big sugary drink that doesn't fill you up, okay? So if you find yourself drinking things like cordials, soft drinks, these drinks, alcohol, just be really mindful and do a little stock take. How many drinks apart from water do I have in a day? Okay, if you have a coffee and it has 2 sugars in it and you have it 3 times a day, that's 6 sugars a day. That is 6 times 7 is 42 a week. 42 times 30 is what? 1,260 teaspoons in a month. And that is something like thousands in a year, right? So anyway, that's a lot. Thousands of teaspoons, like 2,000 or 3,000 teaspoons in a year. That's a lot of sugar. If you piled up 2,000 teaspoons of sugar on your desk right now, what would that look like, right? We're talking like over, 2 kilos, like a few kilos of sugar. So it's a lot. That really adds up over the days. Okay, now I'm just going to quickly jump out of here, see if we've got any questions popping through. Awesome. Okay. What do you look for in good supplements? That's a great question. It depends on the supplement. So, for example, in a protein, and it depends on the person, so it's a little bit tricky to answer that. But in a protein, which is the most common supplement people will use, is what you're looking for is low sugar, high protein content to keep it as simple as possible. Okay, so always we're looking for low sugar in our anything we put into our body. Okay, so that's super important. Apart from that, though, and just your general supplements, I guess it's like anything, you're going to get what you pay for. So just have a bit of a read on the label. Make sure it's a reputable brand. It's not just the cheapest thing getting flogged off on the supermarket shelf. Okay, because that's really important. If you're buying all your supplements from the supermarket, they're generally, going to be at a lower level, okay, than when you go to the health food shop. And my advice is you actually go to one of those health food shops and talk to the people, because they know about each specific supplement, okay, as opposed to just picking something off the shelf because it looks interesting. So, yeah, tricky one to answer, but good question. Okay, so the foods to avoid and why. Number one, highly processed things. So you guys probably already know this one, so we'll skip through, but white bread, pastas, anything in a packet pretty much has been highly processed. It's not going to be great for you, okay? It's going to be high in carbohydrates, high in sugars, which is something we want to just moderate, and that's for all the reasons we've already talked about today. Too much fruit, especially when it's juiced. So you might think fruit is good, so this fruit juice with 10 different fruits in it is going to be great for me. And while you will get some great nutrition out of it, you're also going to get a huge amount of sugar. And the thing about the sugar in fruit is when you eat a piece of fruit, in the cell walls is all the fiber. Now, what fiber does to your digestion is slows it down. Okay, so in other words, that sugar gets released into your body at a slower rate when you eat a piece of fruit. When you juice it, all those cell walls have been obliterated, right, in the juicing. So you're not getting the same amount of fiber. You're getting all the sugar, okay? So you're going to get a big hit, a big spike in your blood sugar levels, followed by insulin, and that whole cycle goes. So basically you're drinking soft drink with some vitamins and minerals in it, okay? So it's better than soft drink, but from a purely sugar and weight loss point of view, then not much better. So, and yeah, the other thing about eating too much fruit is fructose, especially when taken around workout time or consumed. Fructose is one of the main sugars in fruit, okay? Makes it difficult for your body to metabolize fat, okay? So in other words, you're not going to burn as much fat when you're having a high fructose diet, okay? Especially around your workouts, which we'll talk about in just a moment. And this one goes without saying, high calorie drinks, we just spoke about it. Juices, cordials, soft drinks, alcohol. One of the quickest ways to get amazing results is to do an audit of your drinking, okay? And like I said, not just alcohol when you say drinking, but what are you drinking every day? How many coffees a day? What do you have in it? You have white with 2 sugars or white with 1 sugar. You've got the sugars, and then you've got the milk on top of that. That's going to be a lot of sugar over the course of a month, 6 months, a year, 10 years. Imagine if you have a couple of coffees a day with 1 or 2 sugars for the last 20 years, how many teaspoons of sugar that is into your body. On a daily basis, it might not make much difference, but over the journey, it makes a huge difference. Okay, simple. All right, now, if that's what we've got to avoid, what do we have to focus on? Number one, proteins. Most people don't get enough protein in their diet, especially if you're exercising a lot, and especially if you're doing the kind of workouts that we do at PEPT with, working at high intensity and also under resistance. So you're doing, some whether it be body weight training or with kettlebells or with the barbells and the heavier weights, you're doing resistance training, which means those muscles are going to be damaged and they need protein to repair themselves. The other benefits of protein, it's going to keep you fuller for longer. It takes longer to break down than carbohydrates from your body. That's why it keeps you fuller for longer, but that also stabilizes your blood sugar levels more as well, because your food's being broken down over a longer period of time. Okay, also it takes more energy for your body to break it down because there's more bonds at an atomic level. So sugar is very small bonds, which is why they get broken down really, really quickly. Small number of bonds between the, I can't even remember the name, but anyway, it'll come to me. So it gets broken down really quickly, which means it gets absorbed into your body really, really quickly. Complex carbs are complex because there are more bonds in between the molecules, which means it takes longer to break down. Protein even more so. Okay, so things like meat, fish, eggs, nuts, dairy, all that jazz, high protein foods. Okay, so rip into them. But obviously with the dairy one, you've got to be a little bit cautious in that there's often high sugar levels attached to that as well. But Greek yogurts are great. Milk, if you can tolerate it, for some it's going to cause inflammation if you have a bit of lactose intolerance, so be mindful of that. Especially if you feel sick in the tummy after eating dairy, then avoid it, okay? Because not only is it going to make you feel sick in the tummy, but if you constantly do that, you're having a reaction every time, your body's not going to be happy. You're going to get inflammation, which means the cells become inflamed, which means they don't operate as well, okay, which will affect everything else and really affect your energy levels, your recovery, aches and pains become worse, etc., etc. Vegetables. Most of us need to eat more vegetables. So pretty much every main meal needs to have some vegetables in it. So, even if we think of a salad or meat and vegetables, like it makes sense, right? So if you just make sure that every lunch and dinner is something along those lines, some protein and a bunch of vegetables, you pretty much can't go wrong, okay? Fruits, of course, we just spoke about not eating too many, but definitely need fruit in your diet. And darker fruits are the best. So dark fruits, in particular berries, have lots of antioxidants, okay? And those antioxidants will help you lower your insulin resistance, okay? Or improve your insulin resistance so your body's more receptive to it and doesn't need as much. Okay, and long story short, we want to focus more on less processed foods, with the exception of supplements that are important to each individual person. Different people need different things to supplement their diet based on their lifestyle, time they're putting in, etc., etc., time they have available, to prepare lots of food and all of that. Okay, so that's really important. Stick to the outside of the grocery store is where you'll find most of the fresh stuff, and all the stuff in the middle is obviously highly processed, 9 times out of 10. Okay, so we're going to keep chugging along. We've got 3 more things to talk about, and then we've got action plan time. Pre-workout nutrition. I'm going to keep this really brief. The biggest mistake people make is, and then remember we're talking about nutrition for fat loss here. If you're an Olympic athlete or something, this might be a little bit different. But people chasing the quick energy or the sugar before a workout because they think it's going to give them energy, right? Which, sure, it will give you energy, but it's also going to lead to a drop-off after a little while once that sugar runs out, okay? And leave you feeling sluggish afterwards, and it's not going to be able to maximize your fat metabolism. So we want low GI carbs, proteins, and good fats, okay? So tuna and veggies would be a great example because we're going to get low GI carbs from the veggies, and we're going to get the good fats and proteins from the tuna, okay? Or you can have tuna and brown rice is great, or salmon, of course, you could substitute in there. Some nuts, nuts are good pre-workout meal as well. Just a small handful of nuts just to get some energy up and about. In particular for the early people, for example, you're working out at 5:30, it is beneficial to eat something before a workout, but it's not the end of the world if you can't stomach it. You just got to do what you got to do sometimes, and getting the workout done is much more important than trying to, I can't work out at 5:30 because I can't eat in the morning, so I'll go at night, and then you have a busy day and you don't go. Just go when you can go. But we're talking about an ideal world here. If you're not used to eating anything before a workout, start really small. Literally a couple of nuts or something will be fine. But we know that when you do eat the right food before working out, that your ability, your metabolism, which is simply how much energy your body uses at rest, okay, your metabolism is going to be elevated for longer, which means after the workout, you're going to be burning energy for a longer period of time, so you're going to get a better result from that workout, okay? So ideas for early birds, you know, literally a couple of nuts before the workout, or mix it in with a tiny bit of Greek yogurt or something, just to have something in your tummy half an hour or so before the workout. Protein shake, or even just, you know, literally, you know, you can go to the deli and get little slices of roast beef or turkey and things like that, which you can just have a quick little munch on, which might sound weird at 5 in the morning, but hey, who's to say what foods have to be eaten at what time of the day? You know, not me, that's for sure. Okay, and avoid fruit before you work out if fat loss is your goal. Okay, simple as that. Post-workout nutrition is really simple. We need protein, we need a stat, and whey protein is the best, okay, because it gets absorbed much faster. If you're trying to lose body fat, burn body fat, you don't need carbs in your post-workout meal. If your goal is performance, or if you're, you know, training twice a day or something like that, then certainly it's going to help your recovery. But if you're not doing any of that and you're purely trying to burn body fat, then literally whey protein, like the one we sell that you can see on the screen there, in water is the best post-workout meal, and it's that simple. So you take your shaker to boot camp, and then chuck some water in it and drink it on the way home. Okay, and that's literally simple. Okay, I'll just jump out of here, see if we have any questions, and then we're going to get into the breaking a habit. Okay, which is probably the most important thing we do today. Any tips for adding more protein to your diet when you're allergic to eggs, nuts, and fish? Fantastic. Yeah, I would say supplements would be great. So protein balls, protein bars, protein shakes, great way to boost up your intake there, definitely. And obviously you just got to get creative. And these days we are very lucky. We have this thing called Google. So figure out what you do like, and then Google recipes for that. So Google protein ball recipes, find ones that you love, or research a few different brands, taste test them. Hey, I love this one. Get a whole stack of them. Okay, so I travel a lot, so I always travel with a heap of protein bars. So I just spend a week in India, spend 1 week every month in India at the moment. So I always take a box of protein bars with me, because I know that the choices when you're walking around in India or at airports is all carbs, carbs, carbs. Okay, so that's not going to work, you know, for what I want to achieve in my life. So I've got to adapt, okay, and work around it. So yeah, that's simple as that. Supplements. What about multigrain bread as a fiber source? Well, you just don't need the fiber because you're going to be eating enough vegetables. Okay, vegetables are high in fiber, so you don't need a fiber source. If you're eating fruit and vegetables, you're going to be getting more than enough fiber. You know, that is marketing. Basically, you know, they're saying, oh, high fiber bread, blah, blah, blah. That's all great, but it's still not great for you. Okay, it's better than white bread, but really you don't need bread in your diet. Okay, it's as simple as that. Sure, if you want to have it from time to time, or if you absolutely love it, that's great. But again, we go back to our example of, you know, if you wanted to build an amazing business, you can work 6 or 7 days a week, or you can work 5, or you can work 4, you can work 3. It's up to you, but your results are going to vary depending on that level of commitment that you give to it. Okay, cool. Okay, so back to our slideshow, breaking a habit. All right, there are 3 steps to breaking a habit. You're going to write these down, and I want you to think of the thing that you want to break, the habit that you want to break in your mind right now. Step 1 is identify the habit. You can't change it if you don't know you're doing it. So, example, every day at 3 o'clock I eat a Mars bar, okay, out of the vending machine at work. That's the habit that we want to break, okay? Step number 2, identify the feeling you get just before you perform the behavior. So just before I reach into my drawer and get some coins out, I have this feeling of lethargy or lack of energy, and like I need to pick me up or something like that, right? What's the feeling? I feel tired. I feel run down. Blah 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 blah. I feel like I need something to pick me up and finish off the day with. So that's the feeling. And then we're going to come up with a circuit breaker, a way to break our pattern. So instead of waiting for the habit to fulfill itself and we eat the Mars bar and then we feel guilty about it, we're going to jump in at step number 2 there. And when we get the feeling, that's our new trigger. So right now, that feeling is the trigger for you to buy the Mars bar, okay, or eat the Mars bar. In this example, we're going to make that the trigger for a new behavior. Okay, for example, now when I get that feeling, I am going to drink a big glass of water, or I am going to walk 2 laps of the car park, or I'm going to do 20 squats, or I am going to take a look at a photo of my kids and remember why I'm doing this, or I'm going to eat a healthy snack that I keep at my desk. Okay, these are all things. They're breaking the pattern. So a habit is nothing more than a circuit in your brain saying, right, I feel tired. It's in the afternoon, I feel tired. That means I need to go and get a Mars bar, or I need to have a coffee with 8 sugars in it, or whatever, right? That's just a circuit that you've been repeating in your brain for a long time. It's become hardwired. So now we need to change it. Just like you change the program on your computer, so or an app on your phone, it says your Facebook app needs an update. Click update. Okay, you click it, and it's reprogramming the app. Okay, with all the updates. So you're going to reprogram your brain with a new update. Okay, update your brain so that you can live a new level of living. Okay, Facebook app now performs better. You and your brain now perform better because you're updating it. Okay, so as simple as that. Sounds very simple, which it is. It's not complex, but again, it's in the implementation. That's the important part. So I want you to have a think about that, and this can be applied obviously to any habit, not just the one you're thinking about right now, but what's the pattern, the circuit breaker, and how are we going to remember to do it, for example. In that example, at 2:45, I'd set an alarm to say, remember your circuit breaker, okay? And your circuit breaker is the 2 laps of the thing. So, it just reminds you, and then when that feeling comes, if it does, you jump up and you do 2 laps of the car park, okay? And be really specific. Don't just say, oh, when I get that feeling, I'm not going to eat the Mars bar. Okay, what are you going to do? Get really specific. Some random quick tips before we finish off. Eat regularly. You've heard that 100 times before. Drink lots of water, at least 2 liters or more if you're really active that day, or if you're hot and sweating a lot. Obviously, you need to just replace that. Protein in every meal is just a great way to keep you on track, keep your blood sugar levels consistent, keep your carb levels down. Make sure you get lots of veggies in there. From a mindset perspective, surround yourself with inspiration. Okay, if you're learning more about nutrition right now on the way to work, listen to a book about nutrition. Download it off the Audible app or the iTunes store and listen to that, okay, instead of the radio. Surround yourself with people on the same mission as you. So that's why coming to PEPs, coming to boot camp is great instead of hanging out with your other friends who go to the pub, right? So Friday night boot camps might be your thing, or Saturday morning boot camps. You surround yourself with inspiration so you don't go out on Friday night or you don't do the wrong things, etc., etc. Hang out with the right people. There's the old saying, you put your hand in a pot of glue and some of it's going to stick. All right, and get really, really clear on your why. We spoke about this earlier, but if you want motivation, you need a clear motive, okay? So eating right, training, etc., that can be hard work, but if you know your why, you're really, really clear on why that it's worth it, okay? Why it's worth this challenge, or why it's worth not just giving into the temptation, okay? If you focus on how hard it is, it's going to be really, really hard. If you focus on why you're doing it, it's going to be really, really important, alrighty? So that's really super, super important, that one. Because none of all this knowledge matters if you don't go and implement it. So if you don't go and do it, put it into action, then nothing matters. Which brings us to action time. So we're going to get really, really clear now on, oh, go back there. Okay, on the top 3 things, or the top things that you've learnt tonight, and how you're going to implement it into your life. Okay, as simple as that, right? So that's what we're going to work on now. So pop through your top things. If there's one thing that came out of tonight that you learnt, and then what are you going to do about it, and when are you going to implement that into your life? Okay, and this will be the last 1 or 2 minutes, and then you're free to start implementing. What I would recommend is that, the test of a decision is new action. So you haven't actually made a decision to do anything until you take new action. So doing something tonight is going to be the best thing possible. The number one thing you can do to actually make sure you get some benefit out of the last hour is to take immediate action, okay? Because that will build momentum, which gets us on a bit of a roll. Okay, so what's the number one thing you've learnt or remembered or been reminded of tonight, and how are you going to implement it? Cool. Yeah, great. I don't need bread as a fiber source. No more bread for me. Perfect. And what are you going to eat instead? For example, instead of having toast in the mornings, you have an omelette. All right, some eggs and some other stuff. Right, perfect breakfast. Cool, yeah, and the whole bread and fiber thing, that's, the marketers of the bread company saying ours has 10 times the fiber of normal white bread. Well, that's fantastic, but if you're eating a decent diet, you don't need 10 times the fiber, all right? And they're probably comparing it to the, piece of cardboard anyway. It's 10 times. Samantha says, meal prep, so being organized, exercise on a regular basis, don't miss meals or snacks. And what's the number one thing you can do, Samantha? E.g., go and organize tomorrow's meals. Okay, what's the number one thing you can do tonight? Cool. Nailene says, change the shopping habit so there is correct foods in the house so the children eat better. No takeaways. Great. And that could be as simple as making a list before you go to the shops, or keeping a piece of paper and a magnet on the fridge so you can write down the things that you need. So you don't just go to the shops with, oh, this looks good, or, oh, I feel like this today. Okay, you're going with a list. Stick to the list, of course. Sandy says, importance of regular meals and impact on insulin levels. Great. Again, what are you going to do? How are you going to implement that into your life straight away? Great. Similar for Michelle. Add nuts and protein. Good. So, yeah, eat more regular meals. Cool. Marie says, break the cycle of snacking. Reprogram my brain to drink a glass of water instead of having the snack. Perfect. And change your focus, because if you're thinking about, oh, geez, I'd really love XYZ, I'd really love this chocolate bar. And if you keep thinking about that, you're going to keep wanting the chocolate bar. Okay, so you need to shift your focus. So that's the cool thing about the circuit breaker is, I need to drink some water. Great, cool. But then what are you going to think about? So find more things. So you got to, and we'll talk more about this in the identity iceberg, but you can tell yourself who you're being, why you're doing it. So, I'm strong, I'm a great example for my kids, etc., etc. You're going to change your focus. Perfect. That's great. Okay, and then we got another one from Leah. Cool. Stop binging, eat more regularly, have snacks at work. Great. So the thing you can do tonight is prepare some snacks for work tomorrow. Cool. Start my grocery shop in the fruit and veggie store, not at Aldi. Yeah. Cool. Plan meals for Colleen. Great. I'm swapping all the bad snacks and prepping healthy snacks tomorrow so they can eat those instead. Beautiful. Great. Yeah. Samantha says, stop eating Mars bars. Yeah. Totally. Cool. Awesome, guys. Fantastic. Great to see so many action plans coming through there. So remember, the key to change is action, and the more immediate you take the action, the more likely, studies have proven that the more likely you are to actually make changes permanently when you start them straight away. So if you've ever known anyone that says, I'll start that on Monday, right? Or next month, I'm going to be a superstar, they never do it, right? Or very rarely. So it's the people that says, right, I need to do that. I'm starting right now. Okay, I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to call this person. I'm going to plan my meals. I'm going to take action straight away. They're the people that actually get the results permanently. Okay, so that is the person you need to be. So go forth and be that person. That's it from tonight. Super pumped. Thanks so much, guys, for keeping me company for the last hour and being a great bunch of legends and getting so involved with all the questions. Fantastic stuff. And can't wait for our next webinar together. We're going to get more regular on these. So once a month, we'll do a webinar on a particular topic. Next month, we're going to be talking about how do we change our identity? How do we change the way we see ourselves to improve our self-confidence? And yeah, and that's going to be amazing. And I'll talk to you then, if not in the meantime. Also, by the way, feel free to add me on Facebook, guys. So if you're in the VIP group, you'd see my name popping up. Just click on that, click add friend. That'd be cool. And I'm always posting things on my page to try and help. And yeah, and cool. Becky's off to boot camp now at WA. They're a couple hours behind us, so that's awesome. Good luck. Have fun. And yeah, thanks again, guys. And I'll see you on the next webinar. Bye-bye.